Man, I'll be honest with you guys. I spent the last 3 months pretty much missing from the real world, completely immersed in single-player games. Social life? Gone. Sleep? Totally wrecked. Sunlight? I barely remember what it feels like anymore. But you know what? I don't regret a single second of it. I found some true gaming gems that I need to share with you right now.
1. Metro Exodus. You know, most post-apocalyptic games feel like a playground, but Metro Exodus feels like a desperate struggle for every single breath. The sensation of stepping out of those suffocating Moscow tunnels for the first time was overwhelming. Suddenly, the world is massive, but it's still trying to kill you in new, freezing ways. I got so attached to the crew on the Aurora, sitting there smoking a virtual cigarette with Miller or listening to Anna talk about a future without radiation. It felt grounded in a way few shooters ever manage. It's not just about the mutants, it's about the hope of finding a place where you can finally take your mask off and just live. The gameplay is brilliantly tactile and heavy. I love that there's no HUD clutter. You have to look at your physical map and check your watch for Geiger readings. There was this one night in the Volga region where my flashlight battery died and I had to navigate a basement full of humanimals by the flicking glow of my lighter. It was pure, heart-pounding terror. I'll be real, the silent protagonist thing for Artyom still bugs me during the heavy emotional cutscenes, but the weapon customization, best in the business. Swapping a long-range scope for a red dot mid-firefight feels so smooth and mechanical. It's a gritty, rainy, and soulful journey that makes you appreciate the quiet moments just as much as the desperate shootouts.
2. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a kid, but Jedi Survivor is the first time I felt the actual physical weight of being a hunted Jedi in a galaxy that hates you. Cal Kestis has grown up, and you can see the toll the Empire has taken on his face. The sensation of the movement is what really hooked me. The way you can double jump and dash through the air makes exploration feel like a high-speed 3D puzzle. But man, the combat is where the 10 out of 10 lives. I stuck with the crossguard stance because the heavy, slow hits made every swing feel like it had real consequence, like I was actually wielding a beam of pure energy. The story goes to some surprisingly dark places, dealing with betrayal and the obsession with finding a sanctuary that might not even exist. The impactful emotion hits hard when you see how the weight of leadership starts to crush Cal's spirit. I did run into some frame rate drops on Kobo at launch, which was a bit of a buzzkill, but the sheer scale of the planets kept me exploring for hours. The boss fights aren't just hit the big guy, they're tests of everything you've learned about parrying and timing. It's a massive cinematic epic that proves single-player Star Wars is at its absolute peak right now. This isn't just a game for fans, it's a masterpiece of action-adventure design.
3. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's hard to talk about Mass Effect Legendary Edition without getting a bit misty-eyed. This isn't just a trilogy, it's a decade of my life packed into one launcher. The sensation of walking through the Citadel for the first time, seeing all these alien species trying to coexist, is a memory I'll never lose. You aren't just playing a shepherd, you're deciding the fate of the entire galaxy through your own moral compass. I remember staying up until 4 a.m. just to finish a conversation with Garrus on the Normandy gun deck because I didn't want to leave the ship. These characters feel like real friends, people you've bled with, argued with, and eventually saved the world with. The gameplay definitely shows its age in the first game, but by the time you hit the second and third, it becomes this tight, punchy cover shooter that just works perfectly. The real magic, though, is the consequence system. I've seen people lose half their crew because they didn't take the time to upgrade their ship, and the impactful emotion of that failure is something you carry through all 100 plus hours. My only real gripe is the Mako driving. It's still a bit like steering a bouncy castle on the moon, but everything else, it's the gold standard. It's a space opera that makes you feel like the most important person in the universe, and by the end, saying goodbye to that crew feels like saying goodbye to family. 4. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Changing gears completely, let's talk about a game that is a literal painting in motion, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Don't let the gorgeous, glowing visuals fool you. This game is tough as nails and will absolutely test your patience. The sensation of the bash mechanic, where you sling yourself off enemies and projectiles to fly through the air, is probably the most satisfying movement I've ever felt in a 2D game. It feels less like platforming and more like a high-speed dance. The story is told with almost no dialogue, yet the impactful emotion of Ori's bond with the little owl Ku had me more invested than most $100 million RPGs. The gameplay is a massive upgrade over the first one, giving you an actual combat system with different spirit weapons and shards to customize how you play. I found some of the escape sequences, where the screen is literally chasing you through a collapsing environment, to be a bit trial and error, which can be frustrating when you just want to see the next beautiful area. But when you finally nail a platforming section perfectly, it's pure, unfiltered dopamine. The soundtrack is a masterpiece that I still listen to when I need to feel something. It's a tragic, poetic, and breathtakingly polished experience that proves you don't need 4K photorealism to create a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that stays with you forever.
Maybe that's what Mother wanted.
5. God of War Ragnarok. I'll be honest, I didn't think they could top the 2018 game, but God of War Ragnarok is an emotional sledgehammer. The sensation of the combat, specifically the weight of the Leviathan axe returning to Kratos' hand, is still the most satisfying feeling in gaming. But what really got me this time was the maturity of the story. You're watching Kratos, a man who only knew war, trying to learn how to be a father to a teenager who is starting to pull away. It's a literal end-of-the-world epic, but it feels so intimate because of that relationship. The gameplay expands in ways I didn't expect, especially with the Draupnir spear. Chaining elemental attacks between the blades, the axe, and the spear feels like a violent, beautiful dance. I spent hours just exploring the Vanaheim crater because the world building is so dense. My only small gripe? Sometimes the companions shout puzzle solutions a bit too quickly, which can be annoying when you're trying to use your brain. But the impactful emotion of the final acts? Man, I was a wreck. Seeing Kratos face his past while trying to change his fate is a 10 out of 10 character arc. It's a massive, polished, and deeply moving conclusion to the Norse saga that everyone needs to play. 6. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. There's something genuinely therapeutic about swinging through New York in Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. The sensation of momentum is just perfect. Insomniac nailed the physics so well that you don't even want to use fast travel. I've spent literal hours just doing loops around the Avengers Tower because the flow is that addictive. But what makes this a 10 out of 10 for me isn't just being Spider-Man, it's being Peter Parker. The game balances the superhero life with a paying rent life in a way that makes Peter feel like a longtime friend. The gameplay is a rhythmic, gadget-filled blast. I love how the combat forces you to be creative, using the environment to web up enemies or pulling off finishers that look like they're straight out of a $200 million movie. The impactful emotion in the final act, specifically the conflict with Otto Octavius, is probably the best Spider-Man story ever told in any medium. It's tragic, it's personal, and it hits you right in the gut. Even the side missions, like the research stations, add a nice layer to the world. It's a bright, fast-paced, and heart-wrenching masterpiece that makes you feel exactly what it's like to wear the mask. 7. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. If you want to talk about pure atmosphere, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is the gold standard. The sensation of the guiding wind blowing through fields of white pampas grass is pure poetry in motion. I've never used the photo mode in a game as much as I did here. Every frame looks like a Kurosawa film. You play as Jin Sakai, and the struggle between his samurai honor and the dishonorable tactics he has to use to save his home is a weight you feel in every duel. The gameplay is razor sharp. The swordplay is rhythmic and lethal. One well-timed parry followed by a stance switch makes you feel like a true master of the blade. The director's cut adds Iki Island, which dives into Jin's past and his relationship with his father, adding a layer of impactful emotion that the base game was missing. My only tiny complaint is that some of the open-world activities, like following foxes or birds, can get a bit repetitive after 60 hours. But then you reach a duel under a blood-red moon, and all is forgiven. It's a stunning, respectful, and flawlessly executed love letter to Japanese history and cinema.
8. Resident Evil 4 Remake. I was skeptical about a remake of what many consider the perfect game, but Resident Evil 4 Remake blew my expectations out of the water. The sensation of being trapped in that Spanish village, with the muffled sound of a chainsaw getting closer, is pure adrenaline. They managed to keep the campy spirit of the original, but grounded it in a way that makes the horror feel much more visceral. Leon S. Kennedy is still the king of one-liners, but you can see the trauma of Raccoon City in his eyes now. The gameplay is a tactical masterclass. The new parry mechanic with the knife is a game changer. Literally parrying a chainsaw made me shout "no way" at my screen. The balance between resource management and action is tuned to perfection. I'll admit, I missed some of the more ridiculous boss moments from the original, but the new versions are so much more intimidating and well-designed. The memory of the regenerators in the lab? Yeah, I still have nightmares about those sounds. It's a tight, terrifying, and incredibly polished roller coaster that proves why Resident Evil is the king of the genre. It's not just a remake, it's a standard for how these should be done.
9. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I remember the first time I stepped out onto the Great Plateau and just looked. The sensation of pure, unadulterated freedom in Breath of the Wild is something I haven't quite felt since. It doesn't give you a checklist or a map full of icons. It just gives you a horizon and asks, what do you think is over there? I spent probably 20 hours just experimenting with the physics, seeing if I could use a metal shield as a lightning rod, or if I could fly across a canyon using nothing but a stasis-charged rock. It's a game that respects your curiosity more than any other. The gameplay is a masterpiece of subtraction. It takes away the hand-holding and forces you to actually learn the land. I know people complain about the weapon durability, and yeah, it was annoying at first, but it forced me to stop hoarding the best sword and actually use everything at my disposal. The impactful emotion comes from the quiet solitude. Exploring the ruins of a kingdom that fell 100 years ago feels hauntingly beautiful. This is where the game changed for me, when I realized that the story wasn't just in the cutscenes, but in the way I chose to navigate the world. It's a 10 out of 10 because it reminds us that the best part of an adventure is the discovery, not the destination.
10. Hollow Knight. If you want to talk about a game that punches above its weight, Hollow Knight is the undisputed champion. This is a Metroidvanian made with so much love and soul that it puts most AAA titles to shame. The sensation of descending into Hollownest, this vast, decaying kingdom of bugs, is incredibly atmospheric. The art style is cute on the surface, but the deeper you go, the darker and more melancholic it gets. You play as this tiny, silent knight, and the sense of vulnerability you feel in the beginning is real. The gameplay is razor sharp. The platforming is tight, but the boss fights? Man, they are legendary. They require a level of precision and pattern recognition that made me feel like a pro when I finally took down the Mantis Lords. I'll be honest, the soul drop mechanic after you die can be incredibly frustrating when you lose a ton of Geo, but it adds a layer of tension that keeps you locked in. The memory of finding the City of Tears for the first time with that beautiful, mournful music playing is a highlight of my gaming life.
It's a massive, challenging, and deeply poetic masterpiece that proves a small team can create a world just as rich as any multi-million-dollar studio.
Control is probably the weirdest, most stylish game on this list, and I absolutely love it for that. The sensation of exploring the oldest house, a shifting, brutalist skyscraper that houses a secret government agency, is like walking through a David Lynch movie. You play as Jessie Faden, and the way she gains these supernatural powers makes you feel like a total powerhouse. Tearing a piece of concrete out of the wall and launching it at an enemy using telekinesis never ever gets old. The physics engine in this game is a work of art. Every office you fight in ends up looking like a hurricane went through it. The gameplay is a fast-paced power fantasy mixed with deep, eerie lore. I spent so much time just reading the redacted documents scattered around because the world building is so fascinatingly bizarre. My only gripe is the map. It's notoriously hard to read because the building itself is non-Euclidean, but I guess that's the point. The impactful emotion hits when you start to uncover Jessie's past and her connection to this place. It's a game that isn't afraid to be strange, and its ashtray maze sequence is, quite simply, one of the best moments in gaming history. If you want a 10 out of 10 that feels completely different from anything else, you have to play this.
12. Titanfall 2. It is a tragedy that more people didn't play Titanfall 2 at launch because the single-player campaign is literal lightning in a bottle. The sensation of the movement, wall running, double jumping, and sliding is so fluid that it makes every other first-person shooter feel slow and clunky by comparison. But the heart of the game is the bond between the pilot, Jack Cooper, and his Titan, BT-7274. It's a buddy cop movie with a giant sarcastic robot, and it works perfectly. The gameplay is constantly throwing new ideas at you. There's a level involving time travel mechanics that is so clever it could have been its own entire game. Most shooters give you one gimmick and ride it for 10 hours, but Titanfall 2 gives you a brilliant new mechanic every 30 minutes, and then throws it away before it gets boring. The impactful emotion at the end of the journey actually caught me off guard. I didn't expect to care so much about a machine. My only complaint? It's too short. I wanted 20 more hours of this. It's a tight, inventive, and emotionally resonant masterpiece that proves how much creativity you can pack into a linear campaign.
My name is Jack Cooper.
Number 13 is Assassin's Creed Mirage. After years of these massive 100-hour Viking and Spartan epics, Assassin's Creed Mirage felt like coming home. The sensation of being back in a dense, bustling city like 9th century Baghdad is it's a breath of fresh air. You play as Basim, and the game puts the assassin back in the title. I spent hours just perched on wooden beams, planning the perfect infiltration. It's not about having the highest level anymore, it's about using your tools, smoke bombs, throwing knives, and noisemakers to feel like a ghost in the crowd. The gameplay is a love letter to the Ezio era. I love how the social stealth works here. Blending into a group of merchants to sneak past a guarded gate is way more satisfying than just kicking the door down. I will say, the combat feels a bit mushy and clunky if you do get caught. The game really wants you to run away and hide rather than fight your way out. But that's the point. The memory of parkouring across the flat rooftops of Baghdad while the sun sets and the call to prayer echoes through the streets, that's pure Creed magic. It's a shorter, tighter, and much more focused experience that reminded me why I fell in love with this series in the first place. (14) Hades. I used to think I hated roguelikes because I hated losing progress, but Hades completely changed my mind. The sensation of the death loop here is actually rewarding. Every time you die as Zagreus and end up back at the House of Hades, the story moves forward. You get to chat with your grumpy dad, Hades himself, pet Cerberus, and gossip with the Greek gods. It makes failure feel like an essential part of the narrative.
The art style is vibrant and dripping with personality. Honestly, everyone in this game is way too attractive. The gameplay is lightning fast and incredibly snappy. Whether you're using the shield, the bow, or the spear, the combat feels like a rhythmic dance. This is where the game changed for me, when I realized that the boons you get from Zeus or Athena aren't just power-ups, they're ways to create insane, broken builds that make you feel like a true god. The impactful emotion of Zagreus trying to find his mother and the complicated family drama involved is surprisingly deep for an action game. I've put over 100 hours into this and I still haven't seen everything. It's a perfect loop of one more run that will absolutely steal your entire week.
"15. Silent Hill 2 Remake." I'm going to be honest, playing Silent Hill 2 Remake was one of the most uncomfortably amazing experiences of my life. The sensation of the fog in this game is suffocating. It's not just a visual effect, it feels like a physical barrier keeping you trapped in James Sunderland's nightmare. The sound design is the real MVP here. Every metal clink, every distant sob, and the static of the radio kept me in a constant state of nope. It's a psychological horror that doesn't rely on jump scares. It relies on making you feel deeply, profoundly uneasy. The gameplay modernized the clunky controls of the original, but kept that feeling of being an everyman. James isn't a super soldier. He swings a pipe like someone who's terrified. The puzzles are atmospheric and grim, making you interact with the environment in ways that feel meaningful to the story. The impactful emotion of exploring grief, guilt, and the darker parts of the human mind is heavy. It's not a fun game in the traditional sense, but it is a necessary one. I didn't expect this moment, but there were times I had to just pause the game and take a breather because the atmosphere was so thick. It's a haunting, respectful, and terrifyingly beautiful remake that proves horror is at its best when it messes with your head.
16. Baldur's Gate 3. What can I even say about Baldur's Gate 3? This isn't just a game, it's a milestone in gaming history. The sensation of freedom is actually overwhelming at first. You realize very quickly that the game isn't just giving you choices, it's reacting to every single thing you do. I spent 40 minutes just in the character creator, and then another 3 hours just exploring the first crash site. The companions, like Asterion or Karlach, feel like real, messy, complicated people that you genuinely grow to care about, or hate. The gameplay is turn-based D&D at its absolute peak. That's when I realized something was different, when I realized I could solve a massive boss fight not by fighting, but by literally talking the boss into a corner or by shoving them off a cliff with a well-placed spell. It rewards creativity in a way I've never seen before. The impactful emotion of seeing a choice you made 20 hours ago come back to either save your skin or break your heart is incredible. I'll be real, the third act can be a bit buggy and the performance can dip in the city, but the sheer soul and ambition of this game is a 10 out of 10. It's a massive, reactive, and deeply personal epic that will stay with you long after the 100-hour journey is over. 17. Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm going to be completely real with you. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just a game to me. It's a place I move into and live in for weeks at a time. The sensation of the world is so heavy and deliberate. The way the mud sticks to Arthur's boots, the way the snow crunches under your horse's hooves in the mountains, or the eerie silence of a foggy morning in the bayou. It forces you to slow down. You aren't just playing as Arthur Morgan, you're existing as him. I've spent literal hours just grooming my horse, hunting for a perfect pelt, and sitting by a campfire at night watching the stars. It's the ultimate digital life simulator. The gameplay is physical and weighted in a way that makes every gunfight feel like a desperate life or death struggle. But the real 10 out of 10 magic is the writing. Arthur Morgan's journey, his struggle with loyalty to Dutch van der Linde, and his quiet search for some kind of peace is the most impactful emotion I've ever felt in a game.
That's when I realized something was different. I stopped using the fast travel system entirely. I didn't want to skip the journey. I wanted to see every sunset and hear every conversation around the gang's campfire. My only tiny gripe: the controls can feel a bit clunky and slow if you're coming from a fast-paced shooter, but that's the price you pay for this level of realism. The memory of the final chapters of this story is a weight I still carry. It is a staggering, heartbreaking work of art. 18. Cyberpunk 2077. We started with a gritty wasteland, and we're ending in the neon-soaked chaos of Night City. If you haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 since the 2.0 update and the Phantom Liberty expansion, you haven't played the real game. The sensation of driving through the city at 2 a.m. with the rain reflecting off the pavement while a glitchy synth track plays on the radio is pure future noir perfection. You play as V, and the constant, cynical companionship of Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves, creates a dynamic that is it's iconic. Johnny isn't just a sidekick, he's a ghost in your machine that makes you question your own identity. The gameplay finally lives up to the hype. Whether you're a netrunner melting brains with quick hacks from the shadows, or a solo with mantis blades slicing through goons in slow motion, the combat is fast, visceral, and incredibly deep. This is where the game changed for me, when I realized that Night City wasn't just a backdrop, it was a character. Every alleyway feels like it has a story of desperation or greed. The impactful emotion hits you hard in the side quests, stories about lost friends, corporate betrayal, and what it means to be human in a world that treats people like spare parts. It's gritty, it's stylish, and it's deeply moving. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was part of the legend of Night City. It's a flawless redemption story for a game that is now a certified masterpiece. And that is the list, guys. 18 single-player masterpieces that I truly believe define what gaming can be. These aren't just titles you play to pass the time, they are experiences that stick to your ribs and change the way you look at a story. But hey, a masterpiece is in the eye of the beholder. Which of these 18 games is the one you'd play again for the first time if you could? Or did I leave out a game that you think is a true 10 out of 10? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. I'm always looking for the next game to ruin my life.